Look who's got a tripod, finally. It's true. Making big boy moves, I know. Hey guys, I'm Elysse. Welcome back to my channel where we have everything college, language, and life. Today we are talking about English. English is a crazy animal of a language to master because it takes influence from so many other branches of linguistics like Romance languages and Germanic languages, and we even also have some Eastern influence. So English is crazy. I'm a native English speaker. I'm from the south of the United States, so I have been around English speakers for all of my life. I have heard so many different kinds of English. But for people who don't live here or people that have never traveled to an English-speaking country like in the UK or America or Canada or Australia or anything like that, you can kind of be unsure about what sounds natural sometimes. So I wanted to give you guys some tips on how to sound a little bit more like a native. Grammatical features, vocabulary, pronunciation. So this is just going to be 8 things that sound kind of irregular that I notice when non-native speakers are talking to me. So I'm going to go through and tell you what it is and what you can say to sound a little bit more natural or to sound a little bit more native, if that's what you desire. Because, by the way, this is optional. There's always the stigma that Americans care so much that your English is perfect, but we really don't. If you're trying, we will understand you and we will help you. We understand that our language is a mess. And by the way, this is just my opinion about what sounds natural to me. It might be different for English speakers in, like Australia or the UK. This is just me, a southern girl from the United States. So let's start. So the first tip is the biggest, kind of most noticeable weird thing. Do not call it the USA. No one calls it the USA. Definitely not the United States of America. That is just way too long and it's unnecessary. We don't call it the People's Republic of China. We call it China. It's kind of the same thing here because we can say other things that are shorter and just sound more fluid in conversation. If you're a native English speaker, you would be more likely to say 3 things. I would say the first one is just America. The second one is the US. We do not say the USA, but we do say the US, and the States. However, the States is more for like comparisons, at least in my opinion. Oh, you don't eat a large breakfast in Brazil? Well, here in the States, we do. I just feel like the States has more of like a comparison context. But most likely you will hear people say, oh, I'm from America or I'm from the US, but they will definitely not say, I'm from the USA. And I think it's because the USA has the connotation of being like overly patriotic. USA! USA! I feel like when you say that, it kind of brings that context or that connotation, and we try to not say that. So you will never hear an American call their country the USA. We're not gonna kill you if you say the USA, it's just like, why are you talking like that? If someone said the United States of America to me, I'd be like, oh, is it time to say the pledge? Like, what are we doing? So anyways, let's move on to the next one. Number 2 is not enough use of contractions. There are so many contractions in English, even ones that are not official. The first conversation I have with an English speaker, I'll say, hi, how are you? I am good. Okay. Saying I am good or I am fine versus I'm good or I'm fine. It just sounds a little bit better to say I'm fine or I'm good, I'm doing good, or I'm doing fine. Also with modal verbs, cannot and do not. Cannot and do not are more for emphasis and permission. So for example, if someone is really annoying you and they're saying, oh, come to this party with us, please come to the party, come have drinks or something like that, you say, no, I have a paper to do tonight, I cannot go. It's kind of, you're emphasizing the not part of it. So you can use the whole word cannot for that, but in more of a relaxed or informal context, someone would say, hey, can you ride a unicycle? You say, no, I can't ride a unicycle. If you're a kid or something and you're asking your mom, hey, can I go play with my friends? She says, no, you haven't finished your dinner. You cannot go. No, or you cannot. You're emphasizing the not. That's what's important. Also with do not, it's for emphasis and commands. So if I said, I don't like apples, it's just like, oh, okay, she doesn't like apples. But if I said, I do not like apples, you're emphasizing the not. And you're saying, I have a strong dislike for apples. Or if someone's really annoying you and they say, hey, I'm gonna tear up your favorite picture, you say, do not do that. It's more for emphasis or a kind of a command. But if you're talking in an informal context and it's just everyday conversation, say don't or say can't. I don't have time to go to the store versus I do not have time to go to the store. It's just more relaxed. Also what I mentioned earlier about the contractions that are not official in the English language and are more just regional things. You'd've, wouldn't have, or couldn't have. These are things that you will hear in very fast conversations. So it's really not normal in everyday conversation to say, you should not have done that. It would be more likely for someone to say, you shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have, versus should not have. The same thing with would not have and wouldn't have. He wouldn't have done that versus he would not have done that. It just depends on if you're using emphasis. Maybe you're emphasizing the not part, so he would not have done that. It sounds kind of funny to say, you might trip over it a couple times, but that's more likely what you're going to hear in a conversation, especially with a native English speaker. The next one is more pronunciation oriented. So in English we have some pretty weird vowels. There are a lot of different ways to pronounce an A. You could pronounce it like bagel, dad, ball. You know, there's a lot of different ways depending on what word it is. But two sounds that I've noticed that I've never encountered in other languages are a and I. So I is the short I, like in the word live or the word in. People will understand you if you say I live in Los Angeles, but it's kind of, you might get an eyebrow. We have a specific vowel for that, and it just sounds more natural to say live instead of leave. Besides, leave is another word. Leave means to exit or to go away. For people that just want to go that extra mile and, you know, be really, really perfect, there is that. So it wouldn't be information, it's information. It's a weird sound. Also it's so people don't say dad or they don't say dade, it's dad. So and I. These are two vowels that are very important because they're very integral to the English language. But also about pronunciation, there are some consonants and some consonant patterns that I've noticed that non-native speakers don't really pick up on and they do not really notice. If there's two consonants that are overpronounced in the English language, they are T and H. These are so overpronounced by non-native speakers. For example, I've heard a lot of people say, I want to go to the store, instead of I want to go to the store. See, it turns kind of into a muted D sound. So again, it's not I want to go to the store, it's I want to go to the store. I want to go to the store. So it kind of just rolls off the tongue faster than I want to go to the store, because you're having to stop every word and say t, and it just sounds a little bit less natural, I think. Da is better than t. So it's not I want to go to the store, I want to go to the store. There you go. But with H, it's a little bit more tricky. I see English learners all the time saying like ha, and they are overemphasizing the H so much. It's really more of a soft consonant in the English language, so I'll just give you a couple examples of when you can kind of tone down the H to make it sound a little bit more fluid. An example is when it comes after a T sometimes. So I want him to go to the store. I want him to come to the party with me versus I want him to come to the party with me. There was no H sound whatsoever. I just said I want him to come to the party. He gave her a book. You see at the beginning I do pronounce the H because it's he and it's the start of the sentence and the start of the word. He gave her a book, but he gave her. It is he gave her, but that's kind of, it just sounds like choppy and it's a little bit just too, it doesn't roll off the tongue as easy. So he gave her a book. So yes, T and H are very important consonants in the English language, and if you would like to sound a little bit more native, just tone them down sometimes. H and T, remember those. So the next one is so important. I cannot stress this enough. It's vocabulary related and it is a word that you need to master and a word that you need to keep on your English utility belt at all times. Get. I'm sure you already know this word. You see it probably in every single piece of English text or English literature. If you're speaking to an English speaker, they will say this word a ton. Get is such an important word because it can mean so many different things. It could mean receive, like I got a letter in the mail yesterday, or it could mean to become, she got mad. It could mean to understand, like I don't get it. It could also mean to go, so get out of here. But notice that if you say it like that, you usually have to have a preposition. So if someone said, oh, get in here, or get out of here, get over there, get up on the roof. So get is an important word. If you really want to sound a little bit more fluent, you could make maybe a list of flashcards on Quizlet or something like that that have a lot of different meanings of the word get, so that you can start to use them instead of the more, I guess, formal words. If you were to say, I received a letter in the mail yesterday, it is very, very formal because that is the Latin-based word. In everyday English, we tend to use the more Germanically derived words. So we would not say, I received a letter in the mail. You would be understood, but it just sounds a little bit out of place and a little bit strange. So I definitely recommend you focus on this word because it will never go away. It will always be here, and it's going to come sooner or later, and you need to get used to it. You need to get used to using it in a lot of different ways. It can be your best friend or it can be your enemy. I recommend you use it because it is a very important word. And now the next one is a little bit related to that one. It's the use of phrasal verbs. I had no idea what a phrasal verb was until I started meeting English learners. Truthfully, I never noticed these verbs until other people pointed it out to me. Words like hit up or hang out, put up with, and stuff like that. It never really occurred to me that we use the same word for so many different things and just put a different word on the end of it. So like pass up on means something different than pass out. Pass up on means to reject and say, no, I don't want that. Pass out means to faint. The word come, if you put something else on the end of it, it can mean a ton of different things. Come in means to enter. Come out can mean to exit. However, come out can also mean to tell everybody around you in your life or your family that you're a homosexual person. Come up with means to think of an idea. What's another one? Come on to? Come on to means to hit on some. Oh, I can't use another phrasal verb to explain a phrasal verb. Come on to means to flirt with somebody or to approach a person that you think is attractive. There are hundreds of phrasal verbs in the English language, and you do not have to memorize all of them. A lot of them are more common than others, so I just recommend that you master the most common ones, like hang out, to spend time with someone. To pass out is to faint. Hang up, to put the phone away. Just stuff like that. When I'm speaking to non-native English speakers, I try not to use so many phrasal verbs. I try to use maybe the more Latin-derived words because they're more, I guess, understandable. And I almost immediately notice if someone is using all these fancier, more formal words instead of the phrasal verb that I would use in a situation. I'm not judging, of course, I just notice it. And if you don't want to be noticed for maybe things that don't sound 100% fluent or native, then you gotta use some phrasal verbs, my friend. If you want, I could make a video about the most common phrasal verbs, that I use in my everyday life. If you would like a video like that, let me know down below, or you can DM me on Instagram and let me know your thoughts. This next one is a very, very small thing, but it's such a small thing that I do pick up on. One thing that I notice that non-native English speakers always say to tell somebody that, or to say that. You can drop the that. It's true. You can drop it. So for example, if I were to say, she told me that she loves you, I don't have to include the that. It's not necessary in the sentence anymore, especially in conversational English. So let me give you a couple examples. If I said, she told me that she loves you, it's also correct to just say, she told me she loves you. It sounds a little bit strange to people that are learning English because they're like, a sentence doesn't make sense, but I promise you it does. It's also the same in Spanish, so you need to have the que. The equivalent of that in Spanish is que, and you need that in Spanish. For example, ella me dijo que te ama, you need the que in there. But in English, you don't need the that. You can literally just say, she told me she loves you. It's simple. However, this is just with the words say and tell. You should use the that in other sentences just to be safe. In these two examples, it's definitely not necessary. And you can be a little bit more lax, people come in. It's definitely something that I notice, even if it's just subconsciously. The last one that we have is reverse modals. Reverse modals is when you repeat a modal verb at the end of the sentence. So let me show you an example. So what a non-native English speaker would usually say to me is, you did come home last night. No? And they're confirming that I did come home. But that's not how I would say it. It's correct, but it's not how I would say it. What I would say is use a reverse modal. I would say, you did come home last night, didn't you? And this works for a lot of other modal verbs. If you're saying maybe he would do that for me, wouldn't he? You're kind of putting it on the end and you're reversing it. So would and would not. He would do that for me, wouldn't he? Or if I said, you could finish that project by yourself, couldn't you? It's kind of just a small way to confirm a sentence without using yes or no. So if you said, you're from America, aren't you? It would sound much more natural than, you're from America, yes? In English, you have to put aren't you. You have to kind of reverse it. If it's positive at the beginning of the sentence, it will be negative at the end of the sentence. You would do that, wouldn't you? If it's negative at the beginning of the sentence, it will be positive at the end of the sentence. He would never do that to me, would he? So you can use it in multiple ways. It's just a small way to sound a little bit more fluent in English. These are just some things that I notice. Again, it's definitely not necessary to speak like this, and people will understand you if you know, speak in the way that you speak without all of these tips. Okay, so I hope that I was speaking clearly and making sense and explaining things all right. But for people that want to go that extra mile and maybe sound a little bit more conversational, sound a little bit more relaxed when they speak, these are things that I definitely recommend. Practice them to yourself and practice them with other English speakers. And with these, you will be well on your way to sounding a little bit more fluent. If you have any questions, you can definitely comment below and I will answer as clearly as I can. If there's the things that I didn't explain clearly, it's probably just because it comes so naturally because I've been speaking this language all of my life. Do not be scared and do not hesitate to comment questions down below, or you can DM me at Instagram at Elysse DeVega or my new language Instagram at Elysse Speaks. I highly recommend you follow my new Instagram at Elysse Speaks because that's where I put all things language. It's specifically just for language. I'm putting advice and tips and, you know, my language progress, because right now I'm currently focusing on German, Korean, and Portuguese. So yeah, if you would like to put your question there, you can also do that, and you can follow me on that to, you know, get updates on what I'm doing linguistically and for more English tips if that's what you desire. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys next Wednesday with a new video, and I love you so much. Bye.